Welcome to Shotcallers. I'm your host, Dennis Postuma, and today I have a very special guest with me, Forbes Riley. Forbes, welcome to the show.
Actually, now it gets to be Dr. Forbes Riley. How cool is that?
Dr. Forbes Riley.
Yep. But I can't do any surgery on you, but it's all a mental, emotional, and business entrepreneurship thing.
Well, that's perfect because I've had plenty of surgeries, so I don't want any more. So I'd rather you work on my mind and teach me some more entrepreneurial skills. So that's
Sounds
good. So, Forbes, you've generated over $2.5 billion.
Yeah, with a B. And it's okay to slow down on that because people are like, wait, what did you just say?
Yeah.
$2.5 billion in a career that started in a time when no one was doing what I was doing.
Yep.
Do you remember the world of infomercials?
Yeah, I actually do, yes.
Well, we have a new television series coming out on Netflix about what is an infomercial. And it stars myself and Tony Little and Tony Horton from P90X and George Foreman and Billy Mays, because a lot of people don't know what it was. It's funny how I've lived long enough that cycles have happened.
Yes.
I remember a time, and I don't know if you do as well, where you had to run up and change the channel on the TV.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then came the remote.
Yes.
People had less children. We don't need the children to do the running anymore. Yeah. And then we went from 5 or 7 or 9 channels to 500. Well, I was right there at that moment. And I was an actress and a television host. And I did things like I helped create the X Games for ESPN.
Okay.
I'm the first host of that for 6 years. I did my own talk show and game shows. And as an actress, though, I never hit the level of a Julia Roberts or a Sandra Bullock. But I was working on it. In fact, you know, every Halloween, one of my movies does hit the airwaves called Splatter University.
Yes.
I star in that one.
Okay.
That was my very first acting job. But somehow it looked like I wasn't destined to become the star in that. And one day I walked into an audition. And this is the funny thing. Leo DiCaprio walked into an audition one day, too, that he went from a sitcom actor on Family Ties to Titanic.
Right.
One job can change your life in my world. So I walked in, and there was a pen on the desk and a camera. It said, "Sell me this pen." And I looked at the camera and I thought, well, you know, I think they want something different than just saying it's like a 19-cent pen with black ink. And I looked at the camera and I said, you know, when I got to college, I was really young. I graduated early. I was a super smart kid. And I was 16. And my mom used to write me longhand notes every day. And I said, it's a funny thing about a pen, but something like this can reach out and touch somebody's heart. Well, Jake of Body by Jake comes out around the camera, grabs my fist, you're going to make me a lot of money. And it's a funny thing, because he had created a 1-hour concept that played 24 times a day on a new cable channel called the Cable Health Club that morphed into Fit TV. And so we would do this hour wheel. Top of the hour was Tammy Lee Webb doing aerobics. The bottom of the half hour was a new health tip. Then it was Jake working out with a model, and it was me selling a new fitness product. Now, here's the irony of this. I'm not that fit. I was a dancer. I always struggled with my weight. And if you watch the episodes, you can still find them on YouTube. I designed a jacket, like almost like a little ski jacket, but it covered my butt because I didn't have the ideal body. And I was always very self-conscious, but I could pitch your product. Didn't matter what it was. And I don't even know why I could do it so well, but I wrote the pitches with the companies. I would then go live to tape on television, and this aired 24 hours a day. We made so much money. We sold this to Fox TV for $500 million in 1993. I know, right?
Yeah, that's crazy.
And it was an accident for me. I was like, wow, just this skill. And it's like, well, how did you get this skill? The same way that little kid that you see on television who can play the piano at 3.
Right.
I have a download. I don't know why it is, but I can pitch anything that you've got better than anyone you've ever seen. And at that moment, how lucky am I, infomercials were born in around 1991. And there was a lot of guys who pitched, like Billy Mays, the pitch guy, and Ron Popeil, but they wanted a sidekick. They wanted a girl.
Yeah.
There was no girl but me.
Right.
I have done 195 of them. And then and it's been the absolute joy of my life because it's a skill that I love. And it's taught me a lot because for a long time, I wasn't the product. I was the girl.
Right.
I made Jack and Elaine look really good. I made George Foreman look really good. I made Tony Little look. At some point, it was like, wait a second, Forbes, you know, who are you and what are you doing in this world? And that is what propelled the second part of my career, where I felt enough self-esteem to put my name on products and to be designing my own businesses, because I made people hundreds of millions of dollars, and sometimes I would get like a thank you.
Yeah.
Like, no, where's the check?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you don't own the company, you don't know what you're doing in business. And I'm like, you know what? I got to get smart here because I think I'm being used a little bit, not in a bad way. Sure. Great education, but I learned from the best. And I will say Body by Jake was a great picture. And Jack and Elaine, you just wound him up and he would start talking about health and fitness. And in fact, that particular show, Jack and I and Elaine did with the Jack and Elaine juicer, I think we shot in 2003, the year my babies were born.
Okay.
And I got up to Toronto and I met these two 5'4" people who had more energy, more power, and more love than I've ever seen anywhere. And Jack, is the reason that there's the word fitness. There's a reason health clubs are there. The cool thing about Jack LaLanne, number one, most people nowadays don't know him. Your grandmother watched him on TV. He was on TV for 37 years. But I believe next year Mark Wahlberg is going to play him in a movie about his life. So I think that whole resurgence, he's the one who started Arnold Schwarzenegger's career. At Jack's funeral, which was about 10 years ago, Arnold was the first person to speak. And his widow, Elaine, is still alive. She's 97, one of my closest friends on the planet. And I get to hang out with somebody who is 97, who walks by herself, drives, and has this amazing life. And whenever you call her on the phone, she just laughs. And she doesn't have it's funny, she lost her husband. She lost her daughter in a car crash when her daughter was 21. She has a lot of reasons to be sad, but she's not.
Yeah.
She views life in the most beautiful, delicious way. And I get to be the beneficiary of that, as do my children. So in some level, I feel like I've been touched by the universe, by a goddess. And it's one reason I keep going the way I do.
And it touches everybody else. Yeah. So, that's very modest of you it touches everybody else because you're just flowing it out there. Number one female motivational speaker out there. In my opinion, and I do want to mention one more thing though for everybody. You stopped counting in 2004, the 2.5 billion, right?
Well, that's I told him that in private. I can't believe you just told him that. Well, here's the thing. We have a weird way in this society about judging who we are and what we do. I have been wildly successful.
Yeah.
And I think it's such a point, you just get to know my credibility enough to listen to me. Because what I really want to do is not impress you, but impress upon you how successful you can be. I spend a lot of time right now teaching and speaking around the world. When COVID hit, I locked down myself in my computer, in my Zoom rooms. We launched a company, my daughter and I. My daughter is now 20 years old. She launched it with me when she was 17.
Amazing.
She is the CEO of the company. People are like, really, you gave it to her? I'm like, no, you don't understand. Her brain, and she hung out with me since she was 12 years old. She's been going to conventions and meetings and went to digital marketing school, and she just loved all this. And she watched her mom, who at a certain age and not very computer savvy, got a little screwed over. And I didn't know who to trust, which is a lot of my clients, because, the whole web was new and people would take your money and not deliver a product. And there's a lot of things that you need to know if you want to be successful in business online. You not only have to have the drive and ambition and the personal who you are, but then you have to understand what does social media mean and can do for you, because it's a free platform, but most people don't leverage it, right?
Right.
Then when you get a client, what do you do with them? What does the word CRM mean? What does it mean to put someone in a database? What does it mean to create a free gift? What does it mean to do an upsell pipeline offer? If you don't know what I'm talking about, you want to check me out. And I'll tell you why. Because you don't need to have a lot to make a lot.
Yes.
In the early days of television, we were printing money on infomercials. In the early days of the internet, we were printing money using sales letters, which were pretty much infomercials on the internet. And I had all the big guys come to me. Adrian Morrison, we had Dean Gracioso, we had, I think of everybody, Tony Robbins. Those guys came and said, well, how do you, that infomercial technique for selling, if we put it on a landing page, how do we get it out to the world? It's like, oh my gosh, you guys, this is very different than having to wait for a TV station to air your infomercial at midnight. Now, my sales letters and my funnels play 24/7, and you can create your own bank with your computer at home.
Yeah.
And then my daughter and I created a course called GSD.
Okay.
You know what that stands for? It stands for Get Shit Done. Yeah, GSD and email list, GSD and ebook, GSD and online course. I think we have this motivation right now, the two of us, because I've done well my entire life.
Right.
Is that I'm looking at the moms who are stuck at home, who have two jobs and don't get to hang out with their kids, which doesn't work in my world.
Right.
I didn't stop my career to raise my babies, but I spent a lot of time raising my babies. So it's kind of an interesting, how do you survive in today's world? Because if we don't raise our children and they raise themselves, it doesn't work as a society.
Right.
It's hurtful.
It's a lot of our problem right now.
It is. It is. People are trying to make ends meet. And I'm going to tell you something. There is a way to make passive income for very little money and education, and that's what we do as a company. So what I was going to say is during COVID, he came downstairs and said, Mom, with your pitching skills, if you can create this training, I will launch it for you and I'll manage your whole back end. Like, really? Okay, little 17-year-old, let's see what we can do. So we sat in a room for just 3 weeks, created the entire course, and we did a webinar, which is pretty much a glorified infomercial.
Sure.
Night number 1, okay? This is how naive I was. We do it in front of 26 people, and the next morning, I look at our account and I said to McKenna, I said, what does the K stand for? It says we have 25K. She's like, Mom, you made $25,000 last night. I'm like, we did what? We sold a product for $1,000 a piece and 25 out of 26 people bought your product.
That's amazing.
We did that every week for the next 4 weeks. We had a 6-figure business in 4 weeks that we launched from scratch with $0. Just a lot of expertise and a wild desire to help people, a product that we thought was going to make it, and bam, 6 months later, 1.2 million. She was still 17 at the time.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm not a real big fan of when you say, I don't know, I can't do it, I don't know how. Let me tell you something. There's people out there who are willing to help.
Yes.
And today is, I think, one of the best days to be alive because for very little down, very little of anything except a great idea, you can launch a multi-million-dollar business.
Yes. And you can do it. That is just so cool because you've got your skill set, which we use for infomercials, and then you have your daughter come in with the digital marketing background knowledge, and to mix those two and to marry those two concepts, that's an unstoppable platform.
Well, thank you. Well, you know what else is unstoppable is that I, like most people in life, have gone through something traumatic.
Sure.
And my daughter said to me when I used to take her to a lot of speeches. She's met everybody. That's how she started, by the way. She would hang out with Grant Cardone and Les Brown, and she was right there. She asked lots of questions, was very curious. And one of the issues is, I was just going to think about in terms of the two of us making this happen. And she said, Mom, I'm going to do something for you. I love you so much. I don't want to see you suffer anymore. And she said something interesting. She said, number one, when I watch speakers, do they always have to go through something traumatic? And I said, yeah, they kind of do.
Yeah.
Because people who are born with a silver spoon in their mouth, who have it easy, God bless them. I have a lot of friends like that. They just live their life.
Right.
Those of us who have struggled and succeeded at something that most people fail at, I have universally found this desire to share it because I know people out there are suffering. My dad was in a horrific accident when I was a teenager, spent 3 years in the hospital. I know what it's like to be broke and hungry. And I also remember what it's like to stand in his hospital room and look out at the only mansion in my hometown. That's where his room used to look at. And I couldn't see it from the street because it had all these trees around it. But from that vantage point, you could see a giant red brick mansion with a huge circular driveway.
Okay.
We lived in a tiny little 1,300 square foot house with one bathroom. And I would just sit there night after night thinking, what is life like for those people? What does it mean to have Christmas with a real chimney?
Right.
Or do they give out whole candy bars at Halloween? I was obsessed, okay?
Yeah.
And as soon as I graduated college, one of the first things I did, and no one gave me permission to do this or there was a rule book to do this, but I sought out a billionaire so I could live in their house and learn from them. And I became their social secretary. I didn't know what I was doing at all. Right. I lived in their little maid's closet up on 83rd Street in Upper Manhattan, and I watched and I observed. And one of the stories that came out of that is we're in the car driving to Long Island one day to the tennis club. Remember, I didn't grow up with much of anything. And I talk like this, I'm from New York. And Mrs. Gray said to me, darling, you need to get Louis Vuitton out of the trunk. And I said to her, who's in the trunk? And she looked at me and she's like, oh, you'll learn. And I thought, that's exactly why I'm here. I'm here to learn.
Yes.
And I didn't know what it was like to have style and what rich people did. But I wanted it.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to just be rich. I wanted to have all of the things that made somebody live a world-class lifestyle. Because somebody insulted me once and said that. They said, you'll never be world-class. And you know what's great about that? Bring it on.
Yeah.
When people tell me what I can't do, man, that is fuel.
Fuel for the fire.
Oh, my gosh. All right. Case in point, I have it right here. My fitness product. How'd she do that? Well, because after being the second banana for a decade,
right,
for 2 decades, and people would hire me all the time as a spokesperson to represent their product.
Yeah.
I love that. But at some point, that little gnawing voice is, have to find your own thing. I'm like, then one day, a resistance band, I'm showing it to a friend of mine, slips off my foot and shatters my nose. I pulled like this and it went boom. Destroyed my nose, just shattered it. And I quickly after that realized that I needed to find something that wasn't that. My mom was always overweight. She was like 260 pounds. And one day when I bought her a gym membership, she got to the doorway of the gym and she wouldn't go in. I'm like, Mom, come on, let's go. She's like, I can't. Yeah, you can. I got your membership. Yeah. She said, no, they're going to make fun of me. I don't know what I'm doing. And she started crying. The woman that I love more than anything is standing there crying, and she left. And I said, I have to do something about this. I have to find something that people could do at home, that they can do in their moo-moo and they don't feel uncomfortable, that really does work.
Right.
And for 10 years, I set out on a quest to find things. And I did lots of infomercials and lots of products with resistance bands and this kind of thing and that kettlebell, and I didn't like any of them. I liked them to a point.
Sure. There's always something missing.
There was something missing. It wasn't my product. I want to put my name on. And I kept thinking about that. And I will tell you, for those of you listening, I have a huge belief in the word manifestation.
Yeah.
Now, you don't have to believe in it. That's the funny thing. You know what gravity is?
Yeah.
Do you believe in gravity?
Absolutely.
See, I don't. I don't believe in gravity. Oh, but it works anyway. Even if I don't believe it, things fall down.
That's right.
So with manifesting, I don't care if you believe in it or not. It works for the rest of us who do.
Yes. I love that you bring that up, because it's something that I always tell people. We get in an argument about goal setting and manifesting. And I say, look, are you where you want to be? And they're like, no. I said, well, then why wouldn't you just try it? I mean, just what's the worst that could happen? You'd still be where you don't want to be.
Right.
But if it works, guess what? You at least gave it a shot, right? So sorry, go ahead.
No, it's true. I had the picture of every celebrity who had a fitness product with their name on it. And I kept looking at it with my picture going, what's yours? I would think about this all the time. What's your product? And I was over in the UK. I've done really, really well hosting fitness products on all the home shopping platforms. I had an elliptical trainer for a while. I had a trampoline. Oh my God, I did the Urban Rebounder. I did Mission Cool Towels to $55 million. I love my art of pitching. And it doesn't matter. The only golden rule for me now, wasn't when I started though, is you have to only pitch things that you love.
Okay.
In the beginning, I would pitch anything. Then I realized you're a little responsible. People buy this and it doesn't say do everything you said it did.
Yeah.
So then I set my standards higher. And you know what happens? You get what you tolerate. I started getting better products. I started getting better people in my life. So sometimes you have to become someone different to initiate the change to get what you want.
Gosh, that's beautiful. That is a nugget right there for everybody who missed it. And you get what you tolerate in all aspects of life. So
don't even get me started on the relationship part. No, but it's true.
Yeah.
In terms of how much money you're paid, how you take care of your body, the food that you put in. You can go somewhere and they don't have the kind of food you want. Well, then don't eat it.
Yeah.
I'm not nuts when I go out, but I'm very intentional and specific. And I live in a body that I love because I got educated and I practice what I preach.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm looking, and one day I'm in the UK and a gentleman walks in. Can I go one step deeper on the story?
Yeah, 100%. Please do.
This is the learning lesson I had just had my beautiful babies and a couple of really crazy, crappy things happened. Before my children were born, I lost both my parents. That's kind of crazy. After my kids were born, 6 months later, I raised a little boy from the South Central named Dexter. I got him when he was 8 years old. He was 19 years old, and he was best man at my wedding. Loved this boy to no end. Taught him a lot of lessons because he was black, we were white, and we got all kind of flack from people for years about the relationship. This is long before 2023. 2003, he was walking from a haircut to church right outside USC, one of the best schools in the country, wearing blue on Hoover Street. Kid who wanted to get into a gang walked up behind him, shot my boy 10 times in the back, and left him to die on the ground by himself. My wedding photo was on the cover of the LA Times. It took us 3 years to find the killer, who is now spending 52 years to life in jail. Okay, it doesn't bring him back, but, it was interesting to go through a real-life murder trial. And I got to tell you, this takes its toll on you as a human. And I'm raising 2 little babies and having a career. So when I listen to people tell me their struggles about life, bring it on. Life happens for you, not to you. I pulled the life lessons of what does it mean to lose your parents so early? What does it mean to lose a kid? And what does it mean to live in a world where that's possible? I have thousands of lessons that I love teaching and preaching. So when it finally came to doing product, I'd been going back and forth to QVC London, get this, 48 times in 6 years. I was always on a plane. The exchange rate was 2 to 1. We were just making so much money that I was flying from LA to London a lot. But at that time, after my parents, 9/11 happened. And I'd said to myself, I want a baby. I was already 41 years old. I'd been working so hard, I'd forgotten we couldn't make one naturally. And I was like, I'm not sure how to do this. And I said, I don't want to sell anything that I don't love anymore.
Yeah.
Well, the phone rings. And it's my guys in England going, look, we've got a treadmill, a non-plug-in treadmill. And it's the kind of today's special where you can make 50 grand for a day. And I said, okay, I'm in.
Yeah.
They then send me the product and it's crap. And now for the first time in my life, I'm sitting here going, I just made myself a promise. And what am I going to do here? I can't go back on my word because they already booked me. I said, all right, I'll just do it, but this will be the last time. And I'd also lost the lead in a TV series. What I really, really, really wanted had been taken away from me for no reason of my own. I had the lead in a series called Fashion House. I played the the very kind of manipulative boss with all these beautiful models for Fox Television. We shot the pilot. It cleared the country. Everybody loved it. I get a call saying, hey, you know what? We love the show. We love you, but nobody likes a but.
Okay.
They said, your name's not big enough to launch the series on. So we're going to replace you with Bo Derek. I don't know if any of you know who Ms. Bo Derek is. She's lovely, but her big claim to fame is running on a beach with braids in a bathing suit in the movie 10. That's where the phrase, she looks like a 10 came from.
Okay.
But not a powerful actress. But she was known and a sex symbol, and somebody loved her, and I lost the thing that I really wanted. And my agent called me at that same time. I was 41 years old, and he said to me, great job getting the series, but you know what? I'm going to let you go. I'm like, what do you mean you're going to let me go? I had the lead in the TV series. He said, yeah. He said, you make so much money doing infomercials. I'm going to give the business to my son. It's just too hard to do. And he only wants people in their 20s. And you're just, at 40, you're too old. And I kind of believed him, which was, in fact, the absolute prime of my life. And he said, look, if you still want to make a movie, raise enough money and make it on your own. And he slammed the door on me. He also said, make sure that you brand yourself. That was a big thing. I'm like, there was no real personal branding in that time.
Right.
So now I'm unhappy, I'm miserable, I got a product I don't like, and I'm in London. And it's the middle of the night, and I go on now for 24-hour special. I don't know if you've ever seen QVC Today special. You start at midnight, and you're on almost every hour for 24 hours.
Okay.
By the end of it, you are completely exhausted and shattered, but you can sell $10 million worth of product in one day. Okay, I've done this. I sold $1 million worth of my product in one day, my own little product. But I go on, and I don't like the product. And I had a moment as I'm sitting in the dressing room thinking, what am I doing?
Right.
And I will say, I should have been at the happiest, but I was at the lowest point I've ever been. And I found myself on my knees going, I don't get it. I don't get it. I'm lost. I'm confused. I'm hurting. I don't know what to do. I'm pitching something I don't love. I need some help.
Yeah.
And with that, like in the movies, the door opens and a guy walks in with something like this. We're the only two people in the room. And I said, what's that? And he said, oh, it's an office de-stressor. We were over in the UK. And I touched it and I'm like, well, this is stupid. And I gave it back to him. He goes on TV and he winds it up and he sells it. He sells like 1,000 of them. I'm like, he comes back into the dressing room and I said, I'm sorry, is that thing? And so it was something like this. He said, well, here, you just wind it up like this. You give it a tug. And then I got it to spin. And this thing can spin up to 125,000 RPM. And I will tell you something that I don't often talk about, but I saw a vision. I saw my life. I said, this is the greatest fitness product ever.
Yeah.
I said, no, it's not a fitness product. Here, give me a thumbs. It's an office de-stressing. And I'm like, oh, dude, how do I get one of these? You know what he said to me? He said, I'll give you this one. I said, no. And I'm not really a business person at that moment. Go 10, 9, come on, go 8. Go, come on, go in and out. And as soon as I did that, he said, look, I'm a corporate magician. I don't want to do this anymore. I've only sold like 100,000 of them. If you could sell 25,000 of these, I will give you the company. You give me a small finder's fee. I go home with this crazy thing, right? And I put it on your heart like this, and I want you to punch. Now, can you just tell everybody what you're feeling? Because it doesn't look like you're doing anything.
Yeah, it's all in your muscles. That's crazy.
Your entire body has, but yeah, it's a crazy, look at his face. That was my reaction, right? And so I brought this home and I had a crazy download, like from some other universe. I wrote all of the things that this thing could do. I mean, it does abs, it does legs. I mean, literally, I don't want to do this in a dress, but it does inner and outer thighs like this. I'm like this, oh my God, you can punch with this thing. You can do this. You can do your triceps. Wait, you can do your biceps. And I went crazy. I'm like, this is genius. And then I made a couple of them and it was Christmas time. And I gave it to one of my closer friends. She takes it out and she's like, that's nice, but I'm never going to use it. Here, take it back. I should have stopped right there and said, I'm an idiot. You're right. It's stupid, but I didn't. I said, I still think this is the greatest fitness product ever. And I kept saying that. I said it long enough that this TV series came to me and said, we'd like to put you in a TV series called Pitchmen. I'm like, really? Yeah, we're going to follow the entire progress of how you're going to do it. I mean, I had to finance my house. I had to mortgage my house and take all the money for my kids' education, push all my chips in because it's expensive and hard to manufacture and get it cranked up. I spent 5 months with these guys, Billy Mays and Anthony Sullivan. I'm like, this is going to be a hit. We're going to be on Discovery. Yes. And you know what happened? It was a disaster. Turns out, and this is weird, but people have agendas that are not always apparent. Could that be like the government? They have an agenda that's not always apparent. I was under the impression that I was on a show where they loved me and I was great. They couldn't wait. No, it turns out that the show was produced by a couple of very masculine men. They produce Ice Truckers, Deadliest Catch, and they didn't really believe that a woman should be in charge of a company and win. I didn't know that. And I'm out there with my heart on my sleeve. And unfortunately, what happened in the middle of filming, we got down to it. We're shooting inside the little TV commercial, and like a 2-minute commercial. They were going to judge all of them to see if it should, test it. Does it win or not win? And in the middle of this shoot, within the shoot, I'm reading the teleprompter, and it says, hey, for the chest, it's the best. Here you can get it for $49.99. You can get it for $29.99. And then it said you can get it for $9.99. And I said, no, guys, wait, remember I showed you I have a deal with the guy in the UK. I cannot promote this until I own the full company for any less than $19.99. Well, they were like, if you don't do this, we're going to scrap this whole project, blah, 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 blah. We want to be able to sell off the thing. And I'm like, what's going on here? Then they took out a plastic version of this. And I said, and I'm looking at this plastic version, and I said, I would never put my name on something, on a piece of cheap plastic crap that you're selling for $9.99.
Right.
Well, edit. You know what everybody saw on television? It looked like I said, I would never put my name on a product that sells for $9.99. They edited all kind of things to make me look really bad. And when the show aired, Spin Gym was the #1 search word on Google that night. Forbes Riley was #3, and it wasn't good. She's a greedy witch. Oh my God, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, but they edited all kind of things that I didn't say.
Yeah.
And I went home that night, watching it live with lots and lots of my friends, heart shattered and confused because I had a very different motivation and intention, and I thought we were doing great. Man, I got my legs cut off at the knees. And my partner said to me the next day, he said, so, what are we going to do now? So we're going to make spin gyms. He said, nobody wants them. I said, they're wrong. He said, they can't all be wrong. I said, but they are. Do you know what happens at that moment? The universe shifts.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you're the only man on the island, the only woman on the island going, okay, I'm going to do what? And I went to Home Shopping and I said, guys, can we do this? I made you lots of money. And they said, no. They said, we saw the TV series. It doesn't work. You guys have to believe in what you're doing. I left that office and all my money was on the line and it was all going to just sink at that moment. But the funny thing was, I don't ever give up. There was a producer. They were doing a little English home shopping thing at HSN.
Okay.
And I said, could I buy 2 minutes of your airtime? And he's like, sure, what for? I said, I want to do a 2-minute spot. I want to sell my product on your show. And they said, sure, here's what the rate is. And I said, okay. We did. And we sold 200 of them, we sold out technically. They said, well, that was what the maximum, that's what I paid for, 200. We sold 200. They said, could you come back next month when we're here and do this again? Only we'd like to sell a lot more. So I went back and I doubled what I did. I did 400. And what I didn't know was in the studio was the CEO of the British company. He walked over to me. He said, I've never seen anybody do what you do. He said, I'd like to put an order in for 8,000. I'd like you to come to the UK and film this. That 8,000 started my business. QVC and HSN heard about this. I went on January 10th, 2010, and I sold out my first 5,500 units. Within a year, I had a One Day Today special. I sold 64,000. And 10 years later, I have a huge hit on my hands that nobody wanted.
That is an amazing success story. That is so cool. That is the conviction in your product and your belief in your product and the chasing after that is just, so many people are missing that component. And I love that you had the back against the wall and you just kept going. And to go back to your friend who said that she wasn't going to use it.
Right.
Tell me about how important it is to have people around you that believe in you. And there's very few usually. You can count them on 5 hands. How important is it to have
5 hands? You got 5 hands?
Five fingers. Let's count. We'll put it on 5 fingers. Yeah.
Well, I had two people who believed in me. One was my ex-husband, who, even though we didn't see eye to eye, one of the reasons that we're not together is that when you lose a kid, life changes, and he became a different person, and I let him go. But he believed in and was willing to stand there and let me mortgage our house and do some crazy things. And then there was a woman who came into my life, and I'll share this too because I get to evoke her beautiful memory. But she was a Puerto Rican woman who had raised 3 kids on her own, who had been in this country, and we raised them singly. And then she was losing her eyesight. So she wasn't able to do all this. She couldn't drive. She couldn't do a lot of things. We met at a time when I didn't believe in myself. And she looked at me with this kind of attitude. She's like, "You're Forbes Riley." And I'm like, "What does that mean?" She's like, "You're like a superstar." I'm like, no, I'm not. I've been beaten down a lot. I'm not really much of anything.
Yeah.
It's like, "Yes, you are." And I get a sense that I needed to become Forbes Riley for her. And we would go to events, and when I was doing Spin Gym, she would babysit my kids while I wrote it takes a lot of work to launch a product.
Yeah.
And she was my right hand during all of that. And it was pretty damn spectacular. We got to a point where I got an infomercial paid for. We're heading over to London. We had a lot of really big things finally happening. And one night it was my birthday party. And it was in my house. And she said to me, I put on an outfit because it was like Facebook had just started.
Okay.
And she's like, "What are you wearing? What in New York, Puerto Rico? What are you wearing?" And I'm like, "I'm wearing like this old dress." She's like, "Forbes Riley doesn't wear that." I said, "Yes, she is. I'm wearing it." She said, "No, my Forbes Riley doesn't wear that." So she had me put on like this tight dress with this little thing pushed up my boobs. I'm like, "Do I look like Forbes Riley now?" She's like, "You look gorgeous, girl." Then I go downstairs and I'm wearing my little flat nothing shoes. She's like, "What you wearing on your feet?" I'm like, "Nothing. That's not what Forbes Riley would wear." I said, "But it is what Forbes Riley's wearing. She wants to be comfortable." She pulls out a pair of really annoying high heels, and I put them on with the dress. And now I'm like strutting down. It's like, "That's my Forbes Riley." Okay, fine. We get downstairs, and it turns out we don't have ice. We live like 20 minutes from the grocery store. So I get in the car with her. We go to the store. My guests are starting to arrive. I'm like, "Oh my gosh." We get to the parking lot. She's like, "I don't have my purse." I said, "You got any money?" She's like, "I got no money." I'm like, "All right. What do we do?"
Yeah.
She's like, "Well, go get some." I mean, what do you mean? Work the parking lot at the local grocery store to get ice? It's like, And I walk out the door in my high heels and my tight dress, and there's a guy standing there next to his truck, and I'm like, "God, this is so crazy. Hi, it's gonna think this is weird. It's my birthday, and could I borrow $10? I need to get ice." And he's like, "Does one of these?" And I'm like, "Oh God." He's like, "Do you see that cop over there?" And I'm like, "Oh no, I'm not a hooker. No." He says, No. He said, "I just rear-ended that old guy." He said, "Do you really need it?" I said, "Yeah, I need ice." He said, "Well, can I get your phone number?" I'm like, "I don't think my husband's going to like that, but sure, whatever it takes." I asked him what he does. You know what he did? He was a DJ in a strip bar. And I'm like, she's in the car. She's laughing her butt off. We come back and we have a beautiful party. The next day is Easter. She'll me stuff all the eggs. I get on a plane to go do an appearance in California. We live in Florida. I pick up the phone the next morning, and my beautiful Frances was found dead outside of her son's house, ringing her doorbell. She had an asthma attack and died. And so when I talk about the best of times and the worst of times, it got to tell you, if you're on the roller coaster and you want a really high, you got to get ready for the really low lows. And it was so sudden and so shocking and such my right hand. It literally, again, was like, how many times do I need to be tested? And the answer comes back, as many times as it takes.
Wow.
And so I set out on a quest, oh my God, to be Forbes Riley, because that's the best way I honor her legacy. Because Forbes Riley is not me. It's bigger than me. She is a woman who gets stuff done. In fact, I have a bracelet that I wear called "What Would Forbes Do?" Forbes would be outrageous. She would not worry what people think. She would do it anyway when the times are tough. She helps she's amazing.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, my original name is Francine Forbes. I am this quiet, sometimes shy little introvert who likes to hang out with my beautiful Joshua at home. And it's fascinating to me that some days maybe you need to become someone else and it's an alter ego. It's not a bad thing. I mean, Sasha Fierce.
Yeah.
I mean, that's Beyonce.
Yeah.
It's hard getting out on stage in front of 80,000 people. I want to be Sasha Fierce. And so thank you, Frances, wherever you are. I know that you're watching, and I appreciate what you've done, as are my parents and lots of people I lost along the way. But I'm not giving up. I'm going out kicking and screaming.
I love it. How amazing is it that somebody, I hear oftentimes, and I'm sure you've seen it more than me in our business, somebody believes in the person before we believe in ourselves. And that's what gets us to where we need to be. And I see that more and more with the people who are incredibly great like yourself. And also, I love that you mentioned about, realistically, every time you reach for that new level, there is going to be something, and I don't know whether it's God testing you. I don't know whether it's the devil. I don't know what it is, but you're going to get tested right in that moment right before you take it to the next level every single time.
Yeah. It's a truism. And I think it's really important for entrepreneurs to understand that, embrace that.
Yeah.
I don't know that everyone's destined to be an entrepreneur because it's challenging.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's beautiful to be a support team.
Yeah.
And I think certain people's personality really lends to that. And by the way, no building, no job, no company is built with just one person anyway.
Right.
It does take that whole team. And I love finding people who sit in the right seat on the bus to make that happen. I do think I'm at the front of the bus for the moment. And it's a lot of responsibility. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
But if you feel that you've been anointed to do that, then go and run for it.
Yeah.
If you feel like you want to partner with somebody, then do it that way. If you feel you want to be the support person for someone, do that. There is no right or wrong answer for your life. What I've learned, though, is this balance. And so now that my twins, it's funny, people say, Forbes, how come I haven't heard about your pitching programs before now? They knew about my fitness. And I said, well, it's a funny thing about that, but I didn't want to teach what I know.
Right.
I was in my 40s, again, that same time period where we are printing money doing infomercials. Oh my gosh, you can't even imagine. You can make $100 million on a product. ShamWow made $100 million. The Snuggie made $100 million. The Chia Pad. You're like, this is crazy money, right? Well, one day I brought a contract to my agent, and it was for $100,000 as a TV host. And I said, please negotiate with this. It's a client that I found. He calls me 2 days later, and he says, well, I got some good news and some bad news. Okay. He said, the good news is they love you. I'm like, of course they do. I'm wonderful. He said, but the bad news is they want a less expensive, younger version of you. And I found it for them. Again, how many times do you need to get caught off at the knees?
Yeah.
Fall on your, like, you did what? He said, well, no, don't worry. They want you to teach her how to pitch. And I said, wait a second, let me make sure that the pigs aren't flying. No, hell hasn't frozen over. No, I'm not teaching her anything.
Yeah.
I'm never teaching anybody how to do this because I have a skill that works.
Right.
Period. Forget it. I'm not teaching it. And I took my little thing and I kept working for many, many, many years. And it wasn't until COVID hit when my daughter came to me and she said, Mom, the thing that you do best is pitching. I'm like, I know, I'm really, really good at it. She said, well, why don't we teach this as a course to other people? I said, nope, not doing it at all. She said, look, if you want a legacy, you're going to help other people to do what you do. You need to let go of that old belief. And that was the first time I said, wow. And then I said, I don't know if there's a system to what I do. I think I'm just brilliant. She said, Mom, you're brilliant, but. I said, but what? She's like, but let me show you. There is a system. There is something that you do all the time. And we broke it out. And it was like, oh my gosh, there is a system. And it's how you do features and benefits and how you look at the hub and the grid and the springboard story. I'm like, we gave names to all these things. Next, I'm creating a system.
Yeah.
Then I created another system. The other system is based on my name called the Forbes Factor. You know how you do any project?
Yeah.
You Forbes it. Watch this. F is to formulate the dream that you want. So did you start your TV network? Is it yours?
Yes.
All right. So you had an idea, right?
Yep.
And you did all the research to figure out what it was. The next is the O. Why are you doing this? You got to figure out why are you doing it? Because at times when it gets tough, and it always will, if your why is strong enough, it will continue and carry you on, right?
Right.
Then the R, like we just mentioned, you have to release that limiting belief about why me. Am I special? Am I not special? Can I do this?
What is it?
So the R stands for release.
Okay.
And release is to release that limiting belief that you're not good enough, that you don't deserve it, that you can't do it, you don't have enough skills. There are techniques that I've done. I have a new book coming out called The Forbes Factor because I think everything goes through the system. So F, formulate, organize, release. Then the word believe. To believe is to get other people to believe in what you're doing. I just left the World Culture Festival with 500,000 people on the mall between the capital of the U.S. and the Washington Monument. It was a sea of people. There was no sponsors, and everybody was a volunteer there because this crazy, beautiful man named Guru Dev, an Indian shaman, believes in world peace so much, and the way he speaks, he had the leaders of every world country there. 150 countries were represented. 22,000 people performed in 3 days. Look this up, guys. Go to World Festival, Washington, D.C. 2023, and you will see they released the YouTube videos, and it's spectacular. Every country has, we have a crazy little fly here, has every country performing up to like 6,000 performers. It was like magnificent. And I had a chance to sit on the stage because Guru Dev and I've created a relationship.
Yeah.
I really do think it elevated my status. But I said, how did you get all these people? It's like, I just believe. I'm like, okay. I believe in world peace and I want to spread it. And you're like, wow. So when you have an idea, you enrolled me to be on your show.
Yeah.
Are you paying me to be here?
No.
No. So you just had to come up with the right kind of energy and spirit and say, this show can help you. You give somebody what they want. Now, by the way, side note, if you're taking notes at this, take out your pen or paper for a second. How do you pitch someone? You stop telling them what they need and you give them what they want based on what you do. So if I want to pitch my fitness product, I don't tell you how amazing it is, or that I'm in the National Fitness Hall of Fame, or that it's, no. You know what I do? I do this. Pick up your arm. Feel the back of your arm. Is it nice and tight? A little wiggly jiggly. Yes. Well, for women, a little bit. Yeah. And if you want to take off your sweater in summertime or for your romantic partner, I'm going to tell you, you do this for 5 minutes a day, 3 weeks, and watch how tight and toned this gets. Do you want one?
Yeah.
I didn't tell you that you need to tone your arms, did I?
No.
I made you want it.
Yeah.
So that is one of the secrets in the word believe. If you give people what they want, they'll give you what you want.
Right.
And so, of course, I want to be here because I want to talk to your audience. I love your smile. Happy to be support you. And that's why we're here. So FORB, E is the word educate. And educate is a broad scope because educate is, number one, do the research. Has anyone ever had a TV show before?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Have you ever looked at what kind of host they're on, what kind of guests you wanted based on what you've seen? Then you had to know, okay, I've got to get the right guys to do the camera and the lighting and the makeup. And then I've got to figure out the district. All those things, you got to educate yourself for real to make this dream come true. So FORBE, you know what the S is? Start. You could have had all those ideas in your head and never been here.
Right.
Right? Well, remember that moment where you said, all right, I'm going to pull the trigger and go? What was that moment for you?
I'm very good at this part. The starting part is very good. My brother hates it. So like immediately when I said, it was actually when we decided to really amplify, I was just toying with it. And then during COVID, I was like, we have to do this. We have to make the Netflix of personal development and start helping people and start educating people and make it free to subscribers. And it just went.
Boom. So then I would ask you, watching this, is there something that you have in your head? Is there a book you want to do? Is there a project you want to start? A company, a business, even a relationship? Do you have the courage to go, okay, I'm going to start? And I have, again, in the book and in the training that's going to follow, you cannot get it right now. And you may, at the time this is released, but look for the Forbes factor because it's how this little girl over here who grew up ugly, awkward, lonely, created an entire life for herself. And notice I'm talking about her in the third person because that's Forbes Riley.
Right.
You know, I get to go along for the ride. One other thing I want to share with you. You guys have had a chance to meet my husband, my man, Mr. Joshua Self, big, beautiful bodybuilder. He taught me one of the coolest lessons. And that has to do with female and male energies.
Okay.
Do you understand female and male energies in your own life?
I would like to think I do it to an extent, but probably not as much as you're going to educate me on here.
Well, it was interesting because, and I think we all go through relationships as part of a journey.
Right.
So my ex-husband is 6'6". He's a former Notre Dame football player. He's a very big guy, 6'6", almost 380 pounds. Kind of masculine, right? Well, when Dexter was murdered and I decided I was going to go to work, he took it very hard. He's a chef. He stayed home with the kids for a while and definitely explored the feminine side of taking care of babies and cooking and cleaning. And I would come home from slaying the dragon and I'd be, oh, look what I did. And he'd go, okay, here's your dinner, here's the babies. And I go, hey, let's go in the bedroom. And he's like, I got laundry to do. And I lost a fair amount of respect for this big guy who was now wildly feminine and I was wildly masculine. Or I would come home in my masculine and he would be his masculine and boom, it was so loud. He's a Leo and loud and it would argue. You know what I didn't do? I never came home as my feminine. No one taught me this. No one even let me understand that at some point I could just be me and I could have said, hey, can I help you? Can I be nice to you? Can I support you instead of being mad at him for not being somebody? And when I met Joshua is physically very manly.
Right.
But he's emotionally also, he's in touch with both of those sides. And we have a little thing that we do when I walk in the door. I get to leave my masculine Forbes Riley at the door and I come in as his little girl. And we even changed, we go back to my original name because I love that. I don't want to be working this hard. I don't want to be fighting. I want to be loved. I want to be this feminine whoosh who just is taken care of and says, oh, you're the big, strong rock star. And then there are times when I am that tough, when he gets to have that. But I love our relationship so much because for the first time in my life, I understand this balance. And you can feel the energy flows. And we don't fight. Because if you have this flow of this yin and yang, there's no reason to fight. Sometimes you're tough or you're right or you're wrong. But you don't always have to win. And it's 100%, 100%. It's beautiful. And I think that I've been blessed with this at this point in my life because I'm on a platform like yours and around the world showing people, because for years I didn't believe that love was possible. I didn't believe that a real true relationship was even a thing that you saw in movies.
Right.
And even then when they yell cut or happily ever after, one of my favorite scenes ever, because I was always looking at Disney.
Right.
And it was the beautiful princess with the long flowing hair, the tiny waist, and the evil stepmother and the dead mother. Disney killed everybody's mom. Yeah. Like Dumbo and Bambi, boom, you're gone. Snow White, boom, you're gone. So the mothers were not there.
Right.
And there was always these evil, rotten stepmothers.
Right.
Well, and I didn't look like any of the princesses in the books or the movies. And it was kind of sad. Well, one day they made this movie called Shrek. And I'm sitting there watching this big green ogre fall in love with another big green fat ogre. Right. And he said in the film that she, when she can turn back to be her own true self when she falls in real true love. And there's a moment where Shrek kisses her and you're waiting for her to look like Cameron Diaz. Tall, blonde, gorgeous. He kisses her and you know what? She stays a green ogre who farts. I'm like, yeah. And I'm in the movie theater, yes! And people are like, she's just who she is.
Right.
I thought, oh my God. And I mean, that's going back a while. Yeah. But that was the first crack in my self-esteem that says you don't have to be that to be loved, to be perfect. You can be a big, goofy green ogre because it's who you are.
Right.
And someone will love you just the way you are. And that's my relationship now.
And after seeing you and Joshua, I 100% can attest to that. It's amazing to see. And the way that you both speak about each other is just phenomenal. It's just it tears at your heart to see something so cool. So, and that's where I'm sure that has something to do with your support system, your success. Oh my gosh.
Let me tell you something, and I hope, Joshua, you're watching this because I wouldn't be here without you. Joshua was in a motorcycle accident in the beginning of COVID, and for 6 months sat in a wheelchair. And to see the big, burly fitness competitor that you love so much go through that was heart-wrenching. I started my business, and I was sitting at my computer in Zoom teaching classes 40 to 60 hours a week. I own a TV studio. I moved the studio into my house so we could not have to be away from each other. And I was really devoted to this. And the coolest thing was I think I could do that because at the end of the day, I could crawl into his arms and know that I was so loved, that I had something to give. The old me was not coming from a place of love. Turns out the old me was coming from a place of frustration and I can do it and I have to prove something. And one of my friends turned to me one day and he said, I think you're a little brittle. I'm like, excuse me? He's like, I don't see a whole lot of love in your work. I'm like, what are you talking about? I love everybody. They love me. He says, no. And at that moment, it was many, many years ago, like 8 or 9 years ago, I sat down with myself. I have a lot of techniques that I teach. And I said to myself, why don't you do a technique on yourself? Why don't you see what it would be like to be in love again, to want to walk down that aisle to wear a wedding dress? And then I laughed because I thought that's stupid. And I was so negative and so angry about the whole institution. I would look at people wedding photos and I would go, why don't they just buy a house instead of having a wedding? They don't know that it's gonna end anyway.
Yeah.
You've met people like this, right?
Yeah.
So I walked out like a cloud around me.
Yeah.
And then I sat and I Forbes factored myself. And I did my dream board and I put myself in a state. And what I concluded at that moment, before I met Joshua, was that it wasn't so much about the man I wanted to meet. I wanted to be a power couple. I'd never been that. My ex would never go to anything with me.
Yeah.
And I was always on my own, even though I was a part of a marriage. It was not, I said, and then I cut out pictures. Do you do this?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
I cut out
I love
a picture of Randy Gerber and Cindy Crawford.
Okay.
It was always on them. They look like the dark-haired Barbie and Ken. They look perfect together. Then I cut out a picture back then of Tom Brady and Gisele Bündchen because they were this beautiful couple, always on the red carpet. Then I found one more, Laird Hamilton and Gabriella Reese. Blonde and beautiful. They're both surfers. And I said, look at that power couple. I want that. All right, I have a little challenge for you. If you go to Instagram and look up Love Story X2, there's an entire collection of the Joshua and Forbes pictures on red carpets together looking just like what I had envisioned. And when I met this goofy man, you know what he said to me? Shouldn't tell you this. He said, "I make you look better." Like, yeah. And he goes to a lot of the events with me, and he does make me look better. And we do look exactly like what I prayed for.
Wow.
And then I also said that we live a beautiful life, but the reason that I'm here talking about it, because I don't need to be. I could be just enjoying my life.
Yeah.
I think I have an obligation, that's what I hear in my head, to let other people understand that this is possible.
I agree. And that's one of the questions I wanted to ask you is, you're always, so when you step into that Forbes alter ego, you are always on. I love it. The first time I saw anything like this was way back in 2012 at a Jack Canfield event, and seeing you speak the other night, it was amazing. It didn't matter what kind of question was thrown at you. It didn't matter. And there's very few people on this earth that I've ever seen do it, and you did it magnificently. And just how are you always on with that? Is it come from love and the power of manifesting, or to just tell me how that works?
All right. So there is something beautiful about finally getting whatever it is that you want in life. So before I ask that question, is something that you've always wanted in life that you've finally gotten?
Mm-hmm.
What is it?
My daughter. Yeah. So we had trouble having children because of my surgeries, and I wanted to have kids, and we weren't sure, and we finally went through IVF, and finally at 39, I had my first daughter. So
congratulations.
Yeah.
And there's a loveness that whenever she shows up, don't you just go,
oh my gosh, unreal. Yeah.
That's how I feel about being noticed. That's how I feel about having the attention focused on what I'm doing. Because growing up, I was a very ugly, awkward little kid. I had braces for 8 years of my life. I had a problem with my jaw. I had tongue pressure. I drew out of talk for 2 years. Nobody could understand what I was saying. So part of my growing up, being ugly and not being heard, was I remember hearing in the back of my head, I want to matter one day. I want the words that I say to make a difference. And I've always felt that. And I can look at my entire path. It came from being so lonely and so unhappy. And then I said, well, maybe I can do that by being an actress. And I became an actress. And I ended up starring in movies and TV shows. The problem with that is you weren't saying your words. You were inhabiting a character, and that was great. And then at some point, I said to the universe, I want to make a difference here. How do I do that? And the first way I did it was I won awards. In my infomercial industry, they give out like best host, best actor. Well, the first award I ever gave was the first speech I ever gave. And it knocked everybody's socks off. And I didn't write it. Something came out of me, and I thought, okay, I have to win a lot more awards because I have to make speeches.
Right.
And then I realized there was a thing about public speaking. And now you can do it on YouTube, and you want to watch Les Brown in front of 85,000 people. You want to watch Tony Robbins or Mel Robbins or any of the great speakers speak. And then I had this huge fear. I'm like, oh, shoot, I have nothing to talk about. That was really what went through my mind for years. I sat and went to a lot of events. I'm like, they're all so good. I don't have anything to talk about. And then I said, but I want to do this anyway, which, by the way, is like walking up to the edge of a cliff. You haven't finished packing the parachute, and you jump. And you're going to start building the parachute on the way down. And I started to book myself at like the local YMCA or at my kids' school. I said, I'm going to speak about this. I'm going to speak about this. Really scared, like crazy, weirdly scared. Then I started to take some classes. And I did hang out with Les Brown. And then I met Christopher Howard and learned things like NLP and stage performance and hypnosis and neuroscience. And I'm also a magician. So it's not like I haven't been on stage doing things.
Right.
I love doing magic tricks. And all of a sudden, it was like the universe said, oh, wait, your acting skills, your improv, your desire to speak, and your magic skills, you've got something no one else has.
Yeah.
And then I took a job at Club Med where I designed game shows, and I hosted game shows in front of 1,000 people almost every night all over the world. And so I have this crazy, lexicon I can pull from of skills. Mm-hmm. And then I hosted things like the X Games, and I was the live performer. And there was it just kind of snowballed from there. And the next thing you know, I'm just on bigger and bigger stages. And I keep believing I can do this. And then one day I'm walking in the hall, and there's Grant Cardone. He had just gotten to be kind of known. Mm-hmm. Now, I teach the whole pitching thing. Yeah. But when you go to pitch yourself, it's a little hard because you feel like bragging and stuff. So here's my little elevator pitch concept. Walk up to somebody that you know. Can I play this game with you?
100%.
You don't mind being vulnerable?
No, that's okay.
Okay, you guys ready? What's one person who's famous who you'd like to meet? Just one.
Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan. Okay. Now, Michael Jordan's in the elevator. You walk into the elevator. You've got 20 seconds. What do you say to him? Go.
You're the best basketball player I've ever seen. I would love to play one-on-one with you sometime.
Okay. Now, By the way, his camera guys behind her, they're all giggling.
Yeah, I know.
So cute. So that's an interesting thing. So now,
I gotta test my skills.
well, I'm gonna tweak this. I'm gonna tell you
please do.
what you did that was so charming, and then what you might have done differently. So number one, he knows he's the greatest basketball player. He doesn't need to be told that by you, correct? Number two, he has no need to play with you. You want to play with him.
Yeah.
So his answer will be, "That's nice, son," and he'll move on. So what you want to think is, how can you have served him? Now, this is crazy. If you don't practice it, it goes away too quickly because it's literally, oh my God, you're there. And I will tell you a story about Dennis Rodman in a minute. Yeah. True story. But so I see Grant at the hall, and I could go up to him like you did and say, "Oh my God, you're this, that, and the other thing I would love to do." Blah, blah, blah. I didn't do that. Because remember when I go back to what I said about give people what they want. Mm-hmm. Hey, Michael Jordan, I have a network series on inspiration and motivation. I would love to feature you. That's how you get him into your world, because you give him something he wants. It's not a natural tendency. So I walked up. Grant is there with the whole entourage. I see him at the end of the hallway, and I'm thinking I walked right up to his wife. You know why I did that? Because one woman doesn't walk up to another woman's husband in front of her. That was my first thought. I practice this stuff a lot.
Right.
So I walked up to Elena, who I knew because I'd done my research.
Right.
I knew who they were. And I said to her, "Look, you may not know me, but you've seen me on television. I've grossed $2.5 billion. I would like to take your husband and put him and make him an extra $1 billion on an infomercial." She turns to him and says, "You got to meet this girl." So now what do? This is a technique I have. I opened a door. I've got a little window to jump in there. "You got to meet this girl. Your wife just said that." I'm like, "Hey, Grant, nice to meet you. I've hosted, $2.5 billion worth of infomercials. I'd like to take all that you know, put it on TV and make you another $1 billion. Would you be open to that?" What are you going to say to that? But yes. He said, "Great. I have a party we're going to go to in a couple of days. We go to the event. We get to know each other." And within a month of that, he said, "I'm doing a 10,000 person event at Mandalay Bay. Would you consider being one of our speakers?"
That's amazing.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you want Michael Jordan on your show, you now know the formula.
Yes.
And I did. And I show this little piece of videotape a lot because some days I can't believe, like some days I'm watching as me going, "She's so cool. Look at." I walk down on stage in a badass short dress with like strutted out there, and I have this power pose. So Forbes Riley, she walked out on that stage. The little girl.
I saw the video. Yeah, 100%.
I mean, I look at it going, "I'm so nervous to get there." And it was definitely a turning point in my life. I have then created that over and over and over again and continued to push the envelope. Because then I said to myself, wait a second. And you should think about this at home. I'm going to ask you this question. Name me some male motivational speakers. Go.
James Dixon.
Yep, James Dixon.
Les Brown.
Les Brown.
Brian Tracy.
Brian Tracy.
Tony Robbins.
Tony Robbins. Jack Canfield.
Jack Canfield.
Give me the women. Go.
Forbes Riley.
Well, okay.
Jesse Lee, who just passed away.
Right.
Natasha Graciano.
Mm-hmm. You can find the 5 really fast ones, the guys. Where's the girls? Huh. Well, I said that one night. I got obsessed with this idea that I had no female role models, and I couldn't. Now, there are, by the way, and my beautiful women out there, but not many people know them. You've got Brene Brown, you've got Mel Robbins, you've got Lisa Nichols, but they're not where the guys are. They didn't come to your mind.
Right.
Right.
You're right.
And so I said this one night on Clubhouse. Clubhouse was an app that no longer exists. That was audio only. And I said, I'm getting really tired of listening to all the guys. Where's my girl? Why are my role models?
Right.
The next day, this was 2020 January, middle of COVID. Everyone's kind of lonely and stuck at their house. And I get an email saying, hey, we're doing a tour, a virtual tour with Les Brown, Jack Canfield, Damon John, Deepak Chopra, and Sharon Lecter. We want another girl. Would you consider being the girl? I'm like, yeah. The next day, they have a graphic of all of our little heads. My head's in the middle. I'm like, really? This is like you getting your daughter with IVF? Like, I did it. Every month for 2 years, I have done a virtual tour. We speak to tens of thousands of people, and I perfected my pitch. I perfected what I do. I built my company, and it's been spectacular. And then I recently did an all-women summit with Jen Gottlieb and myself and Elena Cardone and a lot of other famous people. And then I did something really crazy. I'm like, I'm unstoppable right now. I'm living in an unstoppable space. That's how I met you.
Yeah, it's true.
And did you like America's Got Talent?
Yes.
Okay. Again, really lonely during COVID. I loved America's Got Talent. There was an episode once where this woman came out and she was a singer. And she told a story about her being pregnant with her son and living in a car. She starts to sing Phil Collins, something, not Up All Night, but what is the song? One of Phil Collins' songs. And I'm like, oh my God, I fell in love with her. Simon stops her and says, wait, do a second song. The audience, I'm literally in tears watching this all by myself going, she was so good. Why did you, don't do that. Don't hurt her. She then sings this other song that I've never heard before. And the audience exploded. Heidi gives her a golden buzzer. Her little son walks out and I'm like, Christina Ray, I showed that moment over and over again because of the moment that Simon stopped her. He said to her, do you have another song? And she's like, yes. She could have said, no. He said, do you want a sip of water? She's like, no, I'm going to let the adrenaline just take me. And she didn't let that moment that might have shattered us, a lot of us at that moment when it didn't work. And she nailed it. I show that to all my students. So as I'm putting together this women's summit, I said, I want to meet this woman. Yeah. I just want to tell her that she inspired me and she doesn't even know it. And I tracked her down and I got her to be on the summit and we became friends. And so get out of your comfort zone. Decide what it is that you want, how to go and get it, and be something other than you ever imagined.
Yeah. So tell me what's next.
All right. So what's next is our company is exploding.
Okay.
And by the way, I have a free gift for you guys. I will keep this up. I have a lot of techniques on pitching. One of them is called 1 Minute to Millions. And it is literally a step-by-step template. So my little intro says, hi, my name is, but I'm known as. What are you known as?
I'm known as putting people on the map.
No, give me 3 words. I'm known as the motivational speaker's best friend because as an owner of a network and give them a platform, they love coming on and I influence not only the world, but speakers around the globe. Does that sound like a pitch? I know. And if you organize it this way, literally in 5 sentences, you will have the entire room eating out of your hand. You will say what you do. This goes for all of you. That's what I'm giving. Just go to www, free gift from Forbes. And the template is there. And all you do is fill in the blanks. And when you do, you get excited about saying what you do. Yeah. Hey, everybody, my name is Forbes Riley. I'm known as the Queen of Pitch because as someone who's grossed $2.5 billion in sales, I now have 18,000 students. I've made more millionaires, and wouldn't it be cool if you and I got to work together? Go check out my free gift at www.freegiftfromforbes.com.
Amazing.
I don't need to date him. You got it.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about that is now you're not struggling.
Right.
I mean, you and I have been, we're up here in Park City. We've been at a bunch of events in the last couple of days. And you're always asking people what they do. And I will tell you, they get stuck.
Yeah.
Here's what people do. Well, I do so many things. I'm like, really? That's nice. Like, what?
Yeah.
And the truth is, not to be cold-hearted about this, nobody cares what you do. They care what you can do for them.
Yeah.
So as soon as I discovered that you do this motivational, inspirational network, I'm like, let's connect.
Yeah.
And so we connected in seconds. Otherwise, we're just dancing around this conversation.
Right.
Don't do that. I don't have enough time on the planet to do that.
Yeah, we didn't take much time at all, did we? No, I know 15 seconds in, we were figuring it all out. Yeah.
And maybe my daughter picks on me because I have a good sense of ADHD, but I'll tell you what, I get more done in a single day than most people.
Yeah.
All right, so what am I up to? So 1, giving you a free gift. 2, getting people to understand how to pitch, how to articulate their ideas. If you've got a new book coming out and you can't really talk about it, no one's going to read it. Okay. Then I also teach a couple of business courses that I've created. One's called Next Level. The other one's called GSD. Because what if I told you that if you have an idea for a TV series, shoot it first before you even try to sell it? Now people can see what you've done. I pre-sell books. You know what I do? I go out to my audience and I say, hey, guys, what do you want to know from me? And they'll say, well, Forbes, we understand how to pitch. Great. You know what my last book was? Pitch Secrets, A to Z. My next book is, well, Forbes, I want to know more than just pitching. I want to know, how do you live your life? How do you have this much energy? How do you have this? Great, Forbes Factor. I'm going to show you that. So I write the book based on what my audience wants. Ask people what they want from you and then do that. The next course I'm doing, so Next Level is a course because people got their pitch, but they didn't know how to be the perfect pitcher. I said, I got you covered. Yeah. I have a 12-week training that gets you to understand your colors, your style, your brands, to get you to choose your alter ego, to get you to craft your signature story, and then how do you get to be on people's podcasts or TV shows for free? I am leveraging right now your platform,
100%.
And you're leveraging the fact that I've got something to say.
Yeah.
So I say to people, if I put you on a morning talk show right now, what would you even talk about? You're not there to pitch a product.
Right.
You're there to tell great stories, to be engaging, to have a brand. We do this now with people because it's what they wanted from me. And you know what? I've sold lots and lots of them.
Wow. Oh my gosh, so I could go on for hours.
I know. I know. That's how the 3 days.
Yeah. So I want to talk about one last thing. I have one question for you, because to me, being in a room with you and seeing the gravitational pull that you create from your confidence and what you do, and just your skill set, how important is it for people, you mentioned it earlier, to get out of their comfort zone? How important is it for people to get out of their comfort zone and to go and meet people and to go out and network and find people that will up their level of influence, as far as, and I don't mean like grabbing from them. What I mean is changing the way they think.
I think you got to go back. And I think you got to go back to, how were you behaving during COVID? COVID was an amazing experiment on humanity.
Okay.
And we all did it to the best of our ability at that moment.
Right.
Some people, I cleaned out my closets. At some point, I had an entirely clean out, but I had to figure out what to do next. And I started a business, because I'm not willing to just sit there and let life pass me by ever.
Right.
There was also a moment during COVID, because I'm a bit of an introvert. I may not look it. When I'm doing my subject, I love to talk. But when I get left alone, I'm just happy to stay in bed, watch TV, hang out with Joshua, do nothing. And so I remember Friday night, like when COVID really hit, and you couldn't go out of your house. And I thought, yeah, this is so cool. I don't have to go to any parties at all. I can sit home and drink wine. But that didn't last that long.
Right.
That's when I said, I need people. And that's when I found it through Zoom. So I didn't feel isolated, didn't feel lonely. Did you do a oh me pity party?
Yeah.
Did you go, wait, this is a time that I could read books and do things I haven't done before? This is a time I could take care of my body. Or did you sit and put on COVID-19 pounds?
Right.
So you have to go back, I think, and you have to fall in love with you. And I do this a lot. I can teach you a lot of business skills, but the truth is, if you're not ready to receive it, they go right past you. And I talk to people all day long, and one of the other parts of my life and my teaching, which I pray that you're going to hear very soon. I did it yesterday, and I think you may have heard what happened. I do a thing called the healing. I clearly understand, and I don't know if it's because I've been through some crazy, wicked tragedies of my own, but I can feel what stops people. And very often it has something to do with their childhood. And what it is a decision that they made about life. And imagine if you could remove that. I've got people, we did it the other night here at the house. A very successful young man who you didn't realize, or most people don't, that he's so closed off in his behavior that he doesn't have a whole lot of friends, and he's very unhappy even though he's successful. And you meet people like this all the time. Billionaires kill themselves.
Right.
So that must mean that maybe having all the money in the world isn't the answer. But I will tell you, fixing your timeline is. So if I said to you, and this is going to go down a whole woo-woo space, so hang in here. If I asked you in space, where is your past? Where did you put your past?
As far as in space?
Like physically touch it.
Oh, right here.
It's right here?
Yeah.
Where's your future?
Right here.
Okay, so that's interesting. A healthy timeline, my friend, is exact opposites.
Oh no.
You're off a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So your past is still kind of in your present. And you mentioned, I don't know about your accidents, because I guess we're too busy talking about me.
Yeah.
But you want to push your past where it belongs, way behind you. So what's your first memory in life?
First memory in life. I don't even know.
Not except for now, it's not cancel.
Okay.
So say cancel.
Cancel.
Because you literally, that's not true. You do know. In my world, in my teaching, we do not let anyone ever say the phrase, I don't know.
Okay.
When you do, what happens in your brain is you close every door of possibility.
Okay.
The truth is, you do know, you don't want to admit that you know. So now repeat after me. I know exactly when it was, Forbes.
I know exactly when it was, Forbes.
And it was?
It was...
What memory? Something you remember. Go.
I remember going to my dad's shop and he would always give us candy bars. I remember that distinctively at our old place.
Oh, I remember that distinctly, but a second ago you were in the I don't know world. That's why we don't do the I don't know, because as soon as you open the door, it came flooding in. Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah.
It's so, I love the human brain. Here's the crazy thing about our brain. We were all given a laptop at birth, completely blank. You have the same laptop I do. Some people became a Mac or a PC, depending on how you view life. And then you have this operating system, and it happens around the time, obviously all your life makes your hard drive, makes your computer, right?
Right.
Ever notice a computer sometimes doesn't work so well?
Right.
For a couple of reasons. One, there might be a corrupted code. Two, maybe there's too much information. Maybe you need to upgrade and reboot a little.
Yeah.
Right. Or maybe you need to get rid of some files that aren't serving you.
Okay.
So go back. You're in your dad's, where are you?
I was at his shop.
His shop. What did he do for a living?
He managed a pattern shop, machine shop.
Okay, and tell me about the candy bars.
Well, he would have, like, when you walk in, he would have a little, what are they called? Vending machine.
Uh-huh.
And every time we would go to visit, whenever we go, like, once a week with my mom,
right,
we would get a candy bar if we were good.
Right. How old were you?
Probably 2, maybe younger.
All right. Now, what decision does a little boy make about life? And trust me, you made one.
Okay.
About life at that moment.
That if you act properly, that you're rewarded.
Bingo. How do you think that has permeated your life? If you act properly, you'll be rewarded.
Served me pretty well.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. But have there been times when you wanted to be a rebel and you didn't do it?
Yeah.
Because you thought, oh, that's not acting. These are your words.
Yeah.
Because I didn't act proper.
Right.
Have you not acted proper and gotten scolded?
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah.
Yeah. I know. It's like, I love this.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. So, do you have a pretty good relationship with your parents?
Yeah. Really good.
Is there any trauma in your life between the ages of 7 and 12? All right. I'm going to tell you, it's why you're as happy as you are. Now, we can tweak the little proper thing, and I would do that in an exercise because something tells me that if you were a bit more of a rebel and didn't always kind of correct yourself, you would enjoy your life even a little bit more. Would that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I got there at some point later on. But yeah.
It's possible.
Yeah. Like 16.
Well, but if you can still remember that moment as your first memory, you haven't completely gotten over it.
Oh, yeah.
Because here's what happens, and I go through an exercise, which we're not going to do live here, but what happens is that when you go through the exercise, that's not your first memory anymore. It's a different first memory, and your entire timeline reorganizes.
I love this.
So do me a favor, kind of just put your hand out here and think about you have to act properly to get rewarded, and just push the candy bar all the way, turn your hand this way, push the candy bar story all the way in the past where it belongs.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't even see it right now. Don't worry about that. And I want your future to be out here in a place that you don't even open your eyes. You don't even, your future is so, but you are right here in the present.
Okay.
That's something you don't even realize that anymore. It's so far gone. And any decisions that you made about that are now kind of gone.
Okay.
Okay. And this is yet to be written. How exciting is that?
Really exciting.
Yeah. And so one of the things that happens in the brain, you can bring your hand back, is I go a little deeper because yours was not traumatic.
Right.
I just did this with a student of mine, came to my house, and she was ritualistically raped when she was 12 years old by an entire room full of men. I met her. She's a therapist. She works with trauma kids, which doesn't surprise you based on that. She's never been kissed. She's 54 years old. She's single. And she said the reason she's never wanted to be kissed is because she was afraid it would lead to more. You can see how it might have scarred her at 12. But that was where she stopped maturing. Came to my home with a group of other people who were high-level students of mine, and we did a breakthrough. Now, a breakthrough requires that you fire up the neurons, that you yell and scream, but you do it in an organized way, that when you get to the end of this massive trauma thing that we do, you get to a sense of saying, I love you to your perpetrator. It's a journey. We all went through that. It takes about a half hour. She looked at me and she said, Forbes, tears in her eyes, I've been through therapy my entire life. I'm done. I want to get married. I want to meet Mr. Right. I want to fall in love. I can do it. That's what we can do. I want to do that wherever it needs it. In the work that I've done, I've been doing it for 20 some odd years. I've heard stories of humans against humans that you cannot ever believe, and I heal them. Because here's why it's healable. It is a memory that's no longer real. And what if I told you the memories aren't even real? It's just your interpretation of it. But what lives with you is the decision that you made about the memory. Her decision had been, I won't let anyone touch me because they could hurt me. We shatter that. And now her new decision is that I'm open to falling in love with somebody who cherishes and cares about me, and I deserve that. That was not even in her scope of thinking. That is not what any therapy gives you.
Right.
And watching her now, it's like, oh my God. I have seen these miracles over and over. I live in a world of miracles. It's why. So we ask, what do I want to do now? One, I want to be doing this on a mass scale.
Yeah.
Since I've been in Utah, I've done it every single day I've been here. At the party that we did, I did it with Alex, then I did it with April. Yesterday, I did it with a guy named Mark in the middle of a business training. And he had just lost his mom. And the crazy thing is that he had just a little thing, again, not sexually related, which is a lot of people's issues.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it's just somebody, one of my girls gotten up at 7 years old, and the teacher said something to her. She was to read something out loud. She got nervous. She peed all over herself. People embarrassed her. You know what her problem is now? She doesn't want to be heard. She doesn't. It makes sense. But what if we got rid of the bullies, got rid of the story, because she was 7.
Right.
But if you let a 7-year-old drive your bus, you don't get anywhere in life. And so you can lose that instantly. It's like, wow, I don't have to deal with that anymore. I'm like, no. I deal with Vietnam veterans in general. People who've killed other people and didn't think they deserved to live. All of that is figure-outable and fixable because it's not real. It's not right now. I mean, if you're in an abusive relationship right now, that's not my deal. Yeah. But if something has happened to you in the past, I can completely shatter that for you. And then you tell it like you told a movie. Literally. I mean, I can't. Sandy Austin, that's her name, is my new poster child. Because that story, that's the most devastating story I've ever heard. And to have her now, I can't wait to dance at her wedding. That's the goal. Because that story needs to be heard by everybody who's ever been molested or touched or trafficked. I had a woman, and it's online right now, but I had a woman who went through my process because she needed to blame the guy who killed her brother. And I will tell you, it took her 23 minutes in silence to say the last few pieces of this process because she's like, I'm not saying I love you. I'm not really. And when she did, everything just fell down. You can't bring back your brother. The killer's in jail. But you holding on to that anger makes your own heart black, causes cancer and ulcers and sickness. And if you literally have the courage to let it go, all that's left is an empty vessel that gets to be filled with new things.
My God. Hopefully everybody is getting what I'm feeling right now because, oh my goodness, this is the most awesome interview that I have ever done in my entire life. Wow. I actually don't want to quit. So hopefully we're going to get a sequel. How can they find you besides just typing in Forbes Riley? How can they find you?
Oh, by the way, I just have to honor you at the moment, Dennis. Look at your face. I love that. You know, I have a fantasy that whenever I'm sitting for an interview that somebody says that it's one of the best interviews they've ever gotten. That's part of what I want to be doing. I love this energy shift. Simply go to ForbesRiley.com. There's all kind of free information there on how to get in touch with any of my classes. It is my name. And if you want my gift, simply go to freegiftfromforbes.com, download the 1 Minute to Millions, and find out how to be part of my community. You know, we are a group of entrepreneurs on a mission. We are 18,000 strong at the moment. It's taken us the last 3 years to get here. And what people say over and over again about my community is I've never felt this much love. We are not religious. We are not we're not political. What we are is a group of heart-centric people on a mission who I demand to see results, that you get what you say you want. You want the relationship. You want the job. You want your kids to be successful. It doesn't matter what you want. We're committed to getting you to get what you want, to turn dreams into reality. Because I'll tell you what, when you do, you may only live life once, but if you do it right, once is enough.
Thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you, Forbes. Oh my gosh. We appreciate you watching us. And until next time, thank you, Forbes. We'll see you later.
Thank you.